Who you answer to?
Here we go. Public Safety Committee meeting, Park and Recreation Committee meeting is now in session. If you got any cell phones, put them on silent. First item on the agenda is the August 9th minutes. Anybody got any questions on board members? Okay. Next item on the agenda, public safety report.
All right, thank you much. Commissioner Singleton, City Manager Mitchell, committee. Good to see you guys again for this month. We got a lot really to talk about. There's a lot of important things. Not only I have, but Mr. Mitchell has. I'm gonna be moving very quickly. So with that being said, you have the Public Safety Committee ahead of time. Are there any questions on that? As well as co-compliance?
Got any questions on the public safety report? Commissioner Andrew.
I just like I email everyone and ask why we don't be able to open these documents immediately when we get it. So I asked that question and it asks me to ask for permission and I have to ask for permission. And my question is why?
So it's a very easy question. I forgot to share it.
Oh,
It was in a folder that I assumed was automatically open to everyone that I shared it with. And when I got your request, I realized I didn't share it with everyone. That's why. That was my mistake.
Technical.
all right.
Yes. Okay.
Any questions on the report? All right.
Commissioner, I got just one very quick thing in reference to personnel. We got 8 openings that we're recruiting for. We have 4 very strong gentlemen. One's in the academy now. I got 2 of them here. I'd like to meet you very quickly. They got a minute to share amongst them. Introduce themselves as we do. And then we can move on. So I first like to introduce, this is Mr. CJ Christopher
Yes, sir.
Alexander. He actually is a police officer in Indiana coming up with us. He actually, his family was born and raised in Benton Harbor. He spent much of his time as a youth here. In 14 seconds or less, introduce yourself, give or take.
All right, well, as Chief said, my name is CJ Alexander. Currently a police officer in Indiana. I'm also a death investigator. I grew up in Berrien County, graduated from River Valley in 2014. Worked as a police officer the last 3 years, did a little bit of EMT work before that, and I'm just glad to be back in Berrien County.
And he says he's related to the other set of Alexanders.
The other Alexander. He gets it.
Yeah. So welcoming him, I think he's gonna be a great addition. The other gentleman is Mr. Caden Bravos. Mr. Bravos actually comes to us from Florida. I think he only applied to 2 departments, one in North Carolina, one here. He actually is a graduate of Embry-Riddle University and is a plane pilot. Mr. Bravos.
I was born and raised in the Midwest in Northwest Indiana, and we made our way down to Florida and spent most of my childhood there. And I wanted to follow my dad and become a police officer, and fire is also in the same sort of realm. So I applied here, I got the job, and I'm excited.
All right. So Mr. Bravos moved here very quickly. His matriculation from Florida here was like boom, like that. So very excited about these gentlemen. Who you do not see here is another gentleman who his name is Dalton Turner. He's actually born and raised in the area. Went to St. Joe High School. He is currently finishing up his commitment in the Army. So he's done 4 years in the Army, serving his country. He was 11 Bravo infantry soldier. He is now in North Carolina finishing up his commitment to the Army. He's in fire school, but Kazrazek, being a nationally known figure, found a fire department down there that he's starting his fire school training with the Department of North Carolina that's helping us with him so he doesn't miss anything. So he is here. And then lastly, we have another Army, he's 91 Bravo guy that will be coming later on down the line, also born and raised in Benton Harbor, will be coming to us soon. So we're making some progress. We want to make sure that you had put faces to names of these young men.
Do we have to attend the recruit school system, or do they?
So he has to go to fire school. They started fire school yesterday. We're trying to get his transfer to MCOs. He's got to go through both, or he's Band-Aid, so he's a genius. So that's what we have. All right. It was terrific.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else on the report? Okay. Let's move to the next item. Harvey Towers update.
I don't have much on that. I know Mr. Mitchell, I think, was going to take this one. I will say that I do have Pastor Palmer, who reached out to us, the city, as the president of the Mr. Alliance, to try to figure out what they can do to help on the human side. We're fighting the battle up top. How can they support the residents during this? So I don't know if he want to say a couple words, and then we can open up the update, and then we can move on. What do you want to do? Update first? Let's do you first.
Mr. Chair, right now we are in discussions with HUD, and we'll be in discussions also. We've been in some discussions with the Housing Commission. So I don't have anything I want to report it right now.
We do have another meeting tomorrow with them. Pastor Palmer.
Pastor Palmer.
Yes, sir. Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to briefly say, as the president of Southwest Michigan Ministerial Alliance, we're here to offer our assistance to residents over there. Back in, I'm going to be very brief in a nutshell, back in June, we were over there serving the residents. We saw some things over there that weren't so favorable, but we just aren't here to blame. We're here to assist and to help. And so we have separate pastors for a Friday and a Saturday, September 1st, September 2nd. And during those discussions with those pastors, we talked about some of the things that we see over there that we would like to assist with, whether on the human side, as Chief was talking about, just being a resource, offering job readiness skills, offering financial literacy classes, building a relationship, and just building a real foundation and inroad with some of the residents, as we've had some back and forth and we've talked to some of them over there. And seems like they've been pushed to the fringes of society. And so we just want to empower them. We want to partner with them. We don't want to tell them what they need. We want to talk to them so that they can tell us what they need. And so we don't just want to assume a position. We want to hear from them about how we can partner with them and just kind of rectify what we see over here. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor.
Piece to your program that relates to conflict resolution.
Yes, conflict resolution, leadership. We have a very layered approach, and I think we need all hands. I think we need all hands on deck with this, hitting it from different angles. I know as Chief was saying, they're hitting it from the top, and I think that we can do some things as an alliance, as we were talking to some of the pastors, just to offer their resources. Leadership. We can talk about conflict resolution. We can talk about trauma. We can talk about all of these things. But at the end of the day, I've discovered, and we've discovered this through conversations, we have to build the trust with these people and a real solid foundation so that we can continue to build the relationship. And it's going to take time and patience. It's going to take time and patience.
Committee, got any questions?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I guess this would be kind of directed to all of us, but specifically city manager, because he's in the meetings. Kind of piggybacking off of Pastor Palmer. The building is in my ward, so I'm getting all the feedback questions. The problem that they're having now is nobody is telling them exactly what they're supposed to be doing. They don't know. Reported someone working for, a couple of people working for housing, I ain't gonna say my position, told them that they're moving next month. Somebody else came from the housing commission, said, no, he don't know what he talking about, y'all ain't moving. And other stuff. It would be nice if we can give them something. Nobody likes living and don't know what's going on. It's easy for me. It's easy for all of us in here. But for them, that's another mental issue. It's every day. It's all night. Be nice if we give them something. They're having a meeting. They know it. But they don't know what comes out that meeting. So it would be nice. I did notice in the action plan from housing that there was going to be a citizens committee, whatever you want to call it. And ain't nobody talking to none of them. So it would be nice, don't have to come from me, it would be nice, somebody just walk right across the street and let them people know what's going on. I'm gonna be honest with you, others not giving them anything, and they're not being honest with them. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if we knew what was going to happen, we would do that. We haven't reached that point yet. We're still in the discussion. And nobody has mentioned anything about moving. Ooh,
Oh, yeah, they have. I know that for a fact, because they mentioned it to me,
well, okay,
and they work for housing. Not saying what position.
okay. They haven't mentioned them in the discussions with me.
So you guys, thank you. So I do have a question in regards to the different meetings. Who is present in the meetings? And I'm not piggybacking off of anybody, but it would be nice to know who's a part of that. And then, so if it's not a subcommittee or some other community members,
Representatives from the Housing Authority, representatives from HUD and the city.
so no citizens, or are we able to know who's in the meetings, basically, is what I'm asking? And can someone such as myself or someone else be privy to this? And then what is discussions
Not right
consist of? Because again, this has been since that I know of, since 2019, and it was discussions and then more discussions. And so I do have like questions and would like to know more than we're having a meeting and we're in discussions. Just because, I mean, residents are crying to me, it's not my ward, but they're crying to me. And so I understand the professional
Not right
piece
now.
of it, but in the interim, what
Not
does
right
that look
now.
like? Not right now, what?
Not
City
right
manager?
now.
Not right now, what?
Not right now. I don't have anything else to say. Not right now.
So soon as, we get something, is it plan on getting that out to? Listen, man, as soon as you find something out, if you're, okay.
Do we have a time frame though, I'm asking?
So the next meeting tomorrow, right?
So is there like a time frame?
Not till, once they meet, I guess. We'll find out, huh? Commissioner,
I did read that there was a plan. And somebody put the plan in my mailbox so I could read it. It does say that there is going to be some citizen opportunities to get involved in this and have some input. So I would ask the city manager when they, or chief or whoever's in the meeting to speak on that, because that would open up more information and make the citizens feel that they're involved in it. So I would ask you when you do have that discussion with as to when and or what kind of process there will be, and get the people involved. As long as we keep people dumb, we'll get some strange reactions from what they're going through. So let's give our people some energy to know that, if nothing else, they have an opportunity to speak about it.
The plan that the commissioner is talking about is the plan that Commissioner Edwards was telling you about that came from the commission.
From the housing.
Yes, that is not, and it has gone up to HUD for review and approval. And we've not heard anything yet. And I've said, I have nothing else that I can say about it because I have not gotten anything from HUD.
So, that means tomorrow, HUD's gonna be.
One last question. Have anybody in these meetings discussed having a citizen? And if they did, what was the end result of that conversation? Did they say no, or it never was discussed?
I don't understand your question.
Was that in the plan that they had?
Yes. But outside of, it's in that plan, but outside of that, in these meetings, has the conversation been brought up that we should have at least one citizen in that building? If it was brought up, what was the end result of that conversation? Was it, we haven't thought about it? Was it no? And if it was no, why not?
The plan is under review and we'll be talking about it tomorrow.
Mr. Dunn.
Since we're talking about them people over there, I just want to first say that those are our people over there, and I don't think they should have to pay rent either. Living in the conditions that you guys say they live in. You said they live in a bad condition.
I lived in it.
I remember when it was very nice, and I watched it go down over the years. And the people at fault don't want to take any responsibility. And meeting with HUD and all of that is good. We've been looking for that. But it's gonna be cold in a few minutes. It's already showing signs of it. And would you, any one of you guys live in that place and pay rent?
Is this just an update on what HUD is doing, or is it an update on the building itself? That's a good question.
Pretty much, I guess,
Just HUD, what HUD is doing?
It's kind of one of the same.
yeah.
Well, I can give you an update on the building. If you want to hear it, I can give it to you today.
One word, nothing.
No change in the building. So,
None.
Would you still pay rent?
Anything else?
No, I'm not in there anymore.
Alright, so, yeah, pretty much everything you're saying, so hopefully we'll know more tomorrow. And it, for that report.
Yeah, and it was, that's put on there for update, so that's the only reason it's on there. Moving on, I can put 4 and 5 together.
Okay. Let's do that.
What we're going to be asking Commissioner Singleton, Public Safety Committee, as well as other commissioners is we've got a lot, and this is from feedback from residents and the commissioners, almost probably all 9 of them. The issue with we're terming now the mobile nuisance parties, the caravans going place to place to place to place. Of course, the place I like to go to are the convenience stores. We have some of the owners here, which again, I'm going to tie these items together. So what we're asking, with your permission, sir, is to start the discussion, here and ultimately the legislative, to introduce some legislation which has been adopted by Kalamazoo, and they've had some success with this. Deputy Director Clark was going to speak to this, but he's shooting up from training. He's in all week this week. So what we're looking for, we're asking the commission to consider is to giving more precise language as far as these type of violations, which is a funny segue into what City Attorney Seneca is going to be talking about, to try to give us some teeth as far as combating these parties, these disturbances with the legal means to be able to do so effectively. So this is what we got really directly from Kalamazoo. I don't know if the clerk made copies available of this. I'm saying we can kind of meet to it to get started. And if it's the will of the commission, obviously we'll do what you want us to do. We can get this going and ultimately approve that that's what we want to do. But we want to start that discussion. So with that being said, the store owners actually came to us and they said, hey, we need some help. What can we do? What part can we do to help curtail this nuisance? Which I was very pleased to have happen. So on August 31st, we had a meeting with them here. Commissioner Singleton, of course, you were part of that meeting. I'm trying to make this bigger for you guys. I'm sorry, because I know it's, I don't see yeah, wait a minute, hold on. Yes, I did. So we met with them, and it was, of course, myself, Commissioner Singleton. We could see here who was present. So in that meeting, they did ask for some help. And in that meeting, we had an agreement of some items that they're willing to do on their end to help curtail these nuisance parties. One of the things is, which was effective 9/1, and we're still trying to get some consistency with that. So consistency is they've agreed to close down on Fridays and Saturdays from 1:30 to 4 and go dark. So if we don't have light to attract, then hopefully that. So that's one thing they've agreed to do. They will still have an employee inside the store that will be working, stocking, cleaning, whatever. We think that, and we've had effect with that before in Main Street Market. It kind of fills it off. What we're trying to do is get something that's going to last foundationally. They've also agreed to, because Benton Harbor is about to be on the cutting edge again, as we always are in our city, with the camera system throughout the city, which is still being, we're about seconds away from getting it going. The stores, Detroit has, I think, Project Green something, Green Light, that stores can get these boxes and they can pipe their internal security footage directly to the police department. Now, granted, we're not trying to really be Big Brother or whatnot, or we're not trying to just spy on people. What they agreed to is, they would do that at their own cost, which I don't think the box is that much. We will only see outside. We're not trying to see inside. We're not trying to invade their privacy as store owners and citizens, because many of them live in the city. I don't know if you know that. Many of them live in the city, the actual city. So they've agreed to, once we get to the point, we get the recommendation for the equipment to purchase those so we can go and tap right into outside if there's an issue. But they call us and say, hey, I got Deidre Fields, won't go away. She panhandling again. We can see for ourselves, which is significant, because now that becomes a misdemeanor committed in our presence, we can act if need be, or just kind of keep an eye on that. So they agreed to that. Again, that's a big one. We also agreed to, I like meetings, like to touch bases. We're going to meet once a month. It's going to be the last Thursday of every month. It's going to be 1 o'clock, hopefully here in the chambers, if not in my conference room, just to kind of see where we are. And if they have issues, share those with us and vice versa. So we're opening up levels of communication for that. We're still working on getting on the same page. That's why Don Corleone 2 is here. That's the guy right there, the orange shirt. You might have something to say. So Sonny is Don Corleone. This is Michael. So here's one thing. All right. So one of the things we have to be mindful of, there are cultural issues that come with them when they come to our community or any community. One of the things is kind of a double-edged sword. I think culturally, they don't like to have much contact with police. I get it. The other thing is and this really is a bone of contention with me. I really, it drives me nuts. I'm begging these guys to help us. I don't know if you're aware of, these guys suffer ethnic intimidation almost on a daily basis. They're called out their name. They're called towel heads. We've had owners be struck in the face. One had his employee had his wife attacked, and they fear retaliation. They say something. Again, I personally have a problem with that. I understand where they're coming from. My position is, our position as public safety is, we can't help you stop this behavior, which is a felony, if we don't know about it. So we're working through that, trying to get them comfortable with, they got to work with the people, their customers every day, all day. So I get that. At the same token, if we want to have people who've been harbored safe, that includes them. Again, many of them live in the city proper. So that's something that is important to me. It's a work in progress, but I think we need to be aware of that. That happens. And then lastly, to communicate with us, send us images of maybe some problem customers that we can act. Actually, we already had an arrest the next day after this meeting of a guy that was selling marijuana illegally in one of the parking lots. So we ever snatch him up, he had like 5 ounces, and it just, of course, it was contrary to the Michigan marijuana law. So that is what we're looking to do, to help our stores help us, and to help bring a level of order to the city. And with that being said, I'll open up to questions, or if Michael might want to say something real quick.
I just want to say that
Michael, really.
we're here to help, because I'm actually one, calling you, because it was too much going on, in the city. We don't want like that type of customers coming, 20 guys come in the store, 17 pay, 3 walk out, it's no business, so we rather give that up. So we're willing to close the stores from 1:30 to 4 o'clock. That's when things die down, and that is the 24-hour, because I'm talking about the 24-hour gas stations, because the liquor stores usually they sell their alcohol and they go home, So we're the one that open 24 hours, but we're willing to close from 1:30 to 4 o'clock, or maybe even 4:30. It depends if it's still, people are out there. And we are getting our lights cut off from the poles outside, because that, we spoke to the chief last meeting. If there are lights outside, they got lights, so they can sit there, drink liquor, whatever they're doing, So we are gonna eliminate those lights and just gonna use the pump lights to serve at the night. So we're doing our best, to help chief, and we expect the same from him. He's very helpful. And if anything that you think, chief, we're doing wrong, email, text us, we can get better.
Yes,
And let's not wait till the meeting.
Yeah.
Because that's like 4 weekends.
Correct.
So just get on us, hey, you need to do this. We'll get on it, That's all I want to say.
Thank you, sir. And they've agreed to put signs. They've got signs on the windows, the pumps. Fridays and Saturdays stores will be closed from 1:30 to 4. So I think that's evidence of they're coming to work with us together. So that's my updated report on that. I would again ask at your discretion that move on the legislator to be vetted for the ordinance. And any questions?
To the attorney about the legislation part. Any questions?
No, I totally agree with moving it forward. In fact, I had some conversations. The guy usually talks to me that one Maine and Maine and Fair. Yeah. So, and I'm glad you guys came in. So I totally agree with this. Totally.
Yeah, I think this is,
Yep.
I'm sorry. I think this is huge too, and that is very I don't know, this is huge of you guys, because that is a prime time, money time and everything, even though it comes with drama. Sometimes people are thinking about financial, but that says a lot. And so, yeah, we appreciate that and appreciate this, that you set this up, Chief.
All right, we move then on to the, sorry.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Well, you have to solve the problem. But what is the true problem? Why are our people doing these things? I know why Kalamazoo set this up, but they also, their residents, their citizens have plenty of things to do. They got clubs, they got places to go and things to do. So I know we're trying to solve the problem, but Benton Harbor has nowhere to go. We have no bars, maybe one. We have no clubs. We have nowhere that our kids go to gather. So that is the human problem. And I know we can make everything a misdemeanor or civil, but if we don't really look at the real problem, what's really causing this, we're gonna do our people a big injustice. So I just wanna bring that human interest up, and you'll find me always doing that, because human infrastructure is worth more than anything. So there you go, thank you.
Thank you.
I would say one thing to that. 4 o'clock in the morning, you don't need nothing to do,
No.
but go home. This is 4 o'clock in the morning. 4 o'clock in the morning, you guess what to do? Be ready to go home, get ready to go to church in the morning, go to work. So we're not talking about 10:30, 11. We're talking about 1, 4, 5, 6. Main Street Market, they were there at 6 o'clock in the morning. Twerk. I can show you videos of them twerking in front of the police squad cars. So
I live right down the street from Lee Street Park, and at one time when it had got, the party place and, the cars blocking the streets and everything, the Commissioner Henderson threw the one down. So when they did take the action of closing down during those times, they did take care of that problem. So, yep, you do, I guess considering some, things, folks having something to do, but at the same time, gotta also make sure that the neighborhoods are, not being disturbed. And as we find things, folks to do, like 1:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, and that's, even when they're in my, let's say, party days, the swinging days, 1:30, I was sleeping. But, I hear your point too.
Well, this doesn't talk of time, this nuisance party thing doesn't have time in it. Not the one that Kalamazoo is doing. So if we are including that, or we're talking about it, let's put that in there also.
okay, that's good. That's good.
Well, this is gonna be also discussed in the legislative committee too, so we're just basically bringing it up now to get the ball rolling. And hopefully the final product come out, something that everybody can live with. Mr. Duncan.
Closing down is not gonna help. What's gonna help is some police protection that you guys haven't been getting. Otherwise, they wouldn't be sitting out there. They come in, handle their business and leave. And that's the kind of strength we need in Benton Harbor. But as long as we pitting each other against each other, calling each other something else and treating each other a different kind of a way, I don't have any problem with you guys. Now, I've had some of them want to call me pimp and chief all the time, every time I come in there, but I settled that. They don't do that anymore. They make their money, but they can't stop the crowds. They cannot do that, and it shouldn't be them losing anything out of this picture. You can't come up with another solution? Ask somebody. Ask a citizen what know the neighborhood, what but could handle things a little bit better. You guys want to handle everything and not include the citizens. And then you want to make somebody pay for your mistakes, which you're not doing. If everybody's doing what they're supposed to do, Ben Harbor, my hometown, would be a much better place without a lot of negative involvement. You guys do your jobs, be there, make sure those people are our people. Make sure they're not gathering the way they actually do, and they'll find somewhere else to go and do something. But there's no reason for them to have to lose any money because of what you guys not doing or not talking about doing either. Thank you for the time.
So I guess Mr. Duncan maybe was late.
No, I was right.
Let me finish. So you didn't hear that we are 8 officers down, that we have 2 per shift instead of 5. Even today, we had to have help from Benton Township State Police detectives of a melee that happened. So if you say we're not here, it's because we're trying to hire bodies to get here. That's in every report.
You're talking like I'm fighting, and I'm not fighting.
Just
you.
don't be clear in facts.
We got enough police riding through Ben Harbor when the sun go down till the sun comes up. We have the state man, we have everybody in this town stopping anything from happening, but we can't stop people from driving and staying in a parking lot.
When it's 400 to 1,
business down.
when it's 400 to 1, no. Tell you what, we'll come out and pick you up at 4 o'clock and you'll drive with us to see what we got.
No, you can't come pick me up for nothing.
Then okay.
Because you're not listening
Then
to
okay.
me. You're fighting me.
Definitely
I'm
not.
just a citizen trying to make
Move on.
a way to do something different than what you're doing.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not fighting nobody. I'm too old to fight you, but I know you can do things a lot better than what we're doing around here. And I was born and raised here, and it has nothing to do with anybody in particular, but you pointing your finger at me is not gonna solve the problem either.
Vice versa.
I'm just trying to give
Exactly.
my own suggestion.
Yeah.
You can downplay it, anybody
Yeah.
can downplay
Basement
it.
facts and I listen.
Anybody
Can we move
can
on?
downplay
Thank you,
it.
yeah.
Thank you.
All right, well, let's keep this,
I'm just asking you to do the
let's
right
keep
thing.
this in, work in progress here, so, you know, take the, store owners do for their willingness to participate in solving the problem too, so appreciate that. Next.
Yes, sir. This will be very quick. And there are copies if citizens would like to follow along because it's too much to look at on the board. So we've been talking about the Construction Board of Appeals, which we haven't had since 2015. It's been defunct. We have to have one by law. We've been working very diligently to put things in place in code compliance. This is a very important part. Part of it, when we reinstitute the Construction Board of Appeals, there's operating bylaws on how they operate. This is what this is. Just to kind of give you a legend for those who get copies, what we're suggesting to change has strike through it. Red is proposed language. So this is simply trying to, when we get the Construction Board of Appeals back going, they at least have something to operate with. And then when they go by bylaws, the first January meeting, whoever's on the board, they can take this and go from there. So that's what we're asking. We think we're in good shape. We have to have by law 3 to 7. We got at least 3 people right now that are confirmed that have agreed to serve. And again, this is as needed. One of which is Tim Drews, Grandma Marshy's one of our engineers. Dylan Barnes, who everyone knows who that is. He is a certified contractor. Daryl Jackson, actually certified contractor from the city. Mr. Loyal Bennett actually has come up with a couple other candidates. So we have at least 3 we can start with right now. I talked to the mayor about recommendation that'll come from us and the credentials that we have. I think the one application is actually on file. The clerk has verified. And we're hoping to get this to the commission, if not the next meeting, the meeting after that, once we get the paperwork in place for them, for the applicants, if you will, to have it where it could be in writing And then you guys put the board, activate it in place with the people that we're suggesting, the applicants that have been vetted.
So next step for this is to go to change these, get these ordinance changed.
No, so next meeting, we're already going to have 17, 11, and not 11, 17 and 7 on.
Okay,
We're still working 11. This is just simply to appoint
the board.
that board.
Oh, okay.
That's all we're asking right now. And then we're actually, because there is no board to do the bylaw amendments by the bylaws, we would also ask you to institute the bylaws to have something to operate with. And then from there, they'll take the baton and run from there.
Then the board, if they wanted to tweak the bylaws, they can do that.
Absolutely. And I would say maybe not the next meeting, but the meeting after that. And Attorney Seneca has actually been involved with this process too. So
No, he just answered my question.
Commissioner Henry?
What are the criteria to have to be on this board? I remember when this board was up and functioning, they had some people on it that didn't have, I'd say this, they didn't show any compassion to our residents. So my question to anyone that's putting somebody on this board is, what is the criteria for this person to be chosen for this board?
Chief.
yeah, so the Act 230 of 1972, as well as the IPMC, are very vague and nebulous. It says qualified persons. So I think Big Buck by the hour probably can answer that better than I can.
So generally, construction board of appeals members need to be licensed engineers or licensed builders, because they're charged with enforcing the building code. So people go to them when they have a question about the building code, and the city says, no, you can't do that for any reason, and then they appeal that decision to the construction board of appeals. So those people have to have unique and special knowledge of the construction code. So it's generally people who are in the construction industry and who are licensed.
And are they verified? I know Ms. Fields went through extensive background checks and all that. So if you have a person that is a contractor and has a bad record, do we take that into consideration? How's the point system for these people? I just say I want to see somebody that is human and have some human characteristics, as well as for the professional skills. So how do we pick them? Are they picked by just an application like our board is, or how is this gonna happen? It's brand new, it's old, but it's a brand new process, so it's something that I wanna make sure that we get a human in those positions.
I'll defer to the clerk. But I can personally answer your question. One of the former members currently has several open cases with code compliance violations. I would say that would be a disqualifier. And the process is,
I mean, it's basically the same application process for everything, but they would submit their credentials, so we would make sure that they have the credentials that are needed.
So you would do that, clerk? Okay, thank you.
All right.
Commissioner, I thank you for the time. I know I was flying a lot of information. I now yield to Ms. Seneca, if you're good with that.
Well, I appreciate this opportunity to give everybody just a general summary of this number 7, decriminalization of ordinances. I want to make it really clear. The ordinances that we are proposing to decriminalize are your lowest level misdemeanors right now. So it's the garbage and litter ordinance, the noise ordinance, and general nuisances, which is trash around people's property and just general lack of upkeep. Right now, in the city of Benton Harbor, those are all misdemeanors, and that means if somebody gets charged, they have to go to court. There is at least 2 hearings before the judge. they can ask for a jury trial and have a free attorney appointed. And the jury trial process is really, it's long, it's arduous, and it's very difficult. So for example, if you had a jury trial now set for a noise violation, what would happen is it might be 3 or 4 months, it would get on the judge's docket, and it would be on the calendar for 3 or 4 days. The problem with that is the city has to pay me to prosecute that case. So a jury trial means you have to have 2 conferences beforehand. You have to do jury instructions, which are very detailed, detailing the crime, letting the jury know what's there. And I don't know if any of you have ever served on a jury, but for one jury, they may call 30 to 40 people. All those people have to take off of work. You have people that have childcare. We talked about the human, several people talked about the human cost. People have to take off work. They have to find someone to watch their kids. If they're sick, they have to reschedule. A lot of people don't have the resources to take off work for even half a day for jury service, let alone a 4-day jury trial, which is what these are scheduled for. So the administrative costs are really great, not only to the city, but I believe to the court system. It's taxing on the court system to try your lowest level misdemeanors. And when I talk about these, I want to be really clear. We're not talking about assaultive crimes where people are injured or people are hit or there's any sort of assault. Those are all state crimes and they can be charged under state law and the prosecutor's office handles them. But these are the crimes that are your Benton Harbor crimes, your lowest level misdemeanors that you are going to, if you don't change these to civil infractions, you're going to end up paying me a lot of money to prosecute these cases, and I don't think you should do that. It's a lot of attorney time. Attorneys have to spend, if you've ever seen a trial on TV, the lawyers have to prepare. Even if it's just a misdemeanor, there's a lot of legal time that goes into it, and I am telling you, it is a waste of your resources to pay me to do that. What I am proposing, and I want to be very clear, this isn't something I came up with. This was in process before I started. So the second day I was here, I met with your public safety director, and we talked about this, and I said, I think this is really important, but it had already been started. So this is something, I didn't come up with this. But I do represent other communities, and we have changed all of our lowest level misdemeanors to civil infractions in other communities. So this is being done pretty much everywhere locally because of the cost to the municipality to prosecute these as misdemeanors. Civil infractions are much easier to prosecute. It's an easier process for the court. So somebody would get a notice, they would go to court, and they would have maybe 2 hearings. One would be a pretrial if they don't plead responsible. It's not guilt, it's actually called responsibility if it's civil. And then they would have a brief trial before a judge, and it might take 2 hours. So it's just a totally different process when it's a civil case. And I guess, again, getting to the human cost for all of this, what is the public policy reason to do this? I'm going to give you an example. So if somebody is charged with a noise violation in the city of Benton Harbor, a minor noise violation, it's a misdemeanor. Let's say they don't want to mess with it, they don't have time, so they just go and they plead guilty. Then there's someone in St. Joe City, and they are charged with the same thing, but it's a civil infraction. So when those 2 people, let's say it's 2 50-year-old men, just for example purposes, when those 2 men go to apply for a job, if all other things are equal, one has a misdemeanor on his background search and one doesn't. So it puts citizens at a disadvantage. Again, for a minor crime, this isn't assaultive, these are your lowest level crimes in the city. I think the public policy reason alone is enough to change these. And again, credit to your police department because they have been looking at this before I worked here. So this is not anything new. I feel you can tell I'm very passionate about this. I feel really strongly about it. And I think, the social justice aspect of this, if you have someone in Benton Harbor who's charged 3 times and they have 3 misdemeanors on their background check, and you have somebody from another part of the county that doesn't have that, they have civil infractions, all things being equal in a job application, it's putting your citizen at a disadvantage. So I guess what I would like to ask you today as a committee is to consider everything I've said and hopefully move this forward to the legislative committee. I haven't drafted all of the changes yet, but I wanted to see what everybody thought about this and hopefully move forward.
I would say, It's definitely a step in the right direction. I can even think of a case when I was a police officer where a young man got a ticket for loud music. It was the commission asked for a zero tolerance, and so we sent our people out, and loud music was okay. Hit everybody, and this young man got hit with loud music, and like you said, he just said, "Hey, I don't have the time, just go pay the money," thinking it probably was like a stop sign ticket or something, and he just paid it, but he didn't realize that he had a misdemeanor on his record, and then just luckily during my little stint as an acting city manager, this guy had applied for a job at one of the charter schools, and he hired him, but then when they did the background check, they said, "Hey, you got a misdemeanor on your record," and they were ready to get rid of him. And so I was able to write a letter and explain to his employers that the misdemeanor that he was charged with was loud music. Had his stereo up just a little bit loud, it wasn't, nothing real serious and stuff. So they ended up considering, they kept him. This guy, everybody know him. He ended up doing some work here in the summertime with the kids, and he also ended up going to Benton Harbor High School and won a state championship as a coach with basketball. But he'd have never got an opportunity if that would have just stuck on him. So I think this would be definitely a step in the right direction. Definitely a step towards social justice. So, anybody want to?
Totally agree, especially if you get caught at what? So a misdemeanor at those low level, what's the age of it? So 15, they can get charged? Yeah, that can mess up a teenager for the rest of his life. Mentally, socially, and everything. I agree.
Anybody? Commissioner?
15, 20 years ago, when we adopted the International Housing Code, we tried to get some of those criminal charges, and it didn't happen. And through the chair, I asked the attorney to look at the International Housing Code that has criminal charges instead of lower charges. So all of these things are things that we have as poor people and African American have gone through all our lives. And so it's time that Benton Harbor steps up to the plate and protects the people with. So I'll ask through the chair that we ask the attorney to look into the International Housing Code criminal charges as well.
Attorney. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? All right, let's move on to the next item. This is a presentation, bar flavored tobacco. For the record, identify yourself, your organization.
Thank you. My name is Jermaine Dickens, and I am the principal of Compass Strategies, which is a public affairs firm in Detroit, Michigan. And I am here with Minu Jones. I'll allow her to introduce herself.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. I'm Minu Jones. I am the founder and CEO of Making It Count Community Development Corporation. We're a nonprofit organization that's geared towards improving health equity outcomes for people of color. And I also chair the Detroit Wayne Oakland Tobacco Free Coalition. Thank you.
So should we just go ahead?
Yes.
All right, well, thank you. Mr. Chairman, and council commissioners, thank you for allowing us this time to talk to you about this very important issue. We see this as a social justice issue as well as a health equity issue across the state of Michigan. And if you take a look at the screen, you'll see some of the national partners that are working with us to ultimately ban flavored tobacco. And if you will indulge us, myself and Ms. Jones will go through this presentation and educate you on this issue as to why we're here. Next slide, please.
So, if you didn't know it, the tobacco industry has maliciously and viciously targeted communities of color. And as a result, African Americans and other communities, other people are disproportionately impacted by death and disease related to tobacco. And they don't stop there. Our youth are their new frontier. They're marketing these kid-friendly flavors to our youth. They come in flavors like berry blend, cinnamon roll, raspberry. These are being marketed towards our kids. And as a result of that, in Michigan, 14.7% of Black youth currently use a vape product. We call them e-cigarettes, but you may know them as vapes, Breeze, Puff Bar. Those are some of the common brands. And 32.4% of youth in Detroit, where I'm from, have tried a vape product. And they often resemble candy. I've worked in the schools for many years. And when the products first came out, teachers, parents, they didn't realize the harm associated with use of these products. All of them contain nicotine, which, is lethal and highly addictive. And the tobacco industry has even gone so far now as to create these products so that they can be concealed. They look like they come in hoodies where the string on the hood is used to actually vape. They've recently brought out products that look like school supplies and highlighter pens. And they will stop at nothing. Nationally, more than 2.5 million youth have reported e-cigarettes use in 2022, and 85% of those youth have used a flavored product. Next slide. So when I started this work, or my organization started this work we were focused on Detroit, which is disproportionately impacted by tobacco, death, and disease, my community. And as you may know, and you may experience here, Detroit is known as a food desert, right? We don't have grocery stores, but we're also known as a tobacco swamp. And I want you to digest that for a minute. It's hard for us to get fresh produce and groceries, but there is a store that sells tobacco products within a 10-minute walk of every resident in the city of Detroit.
Just to give you a visual of that point, if you take a look at this map, the dots that you see throughout this whole city of Detroit represents a place where you can buy tobacco. So every dot you see on that map is a place where you can buy flavored tobacco and regular tobacco.
Thank you. Next slide, please. Why is the tobacco industry targeting our kids? Well, they know, and you should know, that most smokers begin between the ages of 12 to 24. And if you think about it, most older smokers want to quit. They need to protect their bottom line and their revenue. So they are marketing these products and doing this to protect their profits. Next slide. look at the data is clear. In Michigan, we do have a law on the books that says that retailers are not supposed to sell to a minor under the age of 21. But that alone is not protecting our kids. And we need to be doing something more to make sure that our kids are protected from lifelong addiction and the diseases that come along with it. Here is the FDA tobacco compliance check failure rate for for the communities identified. Benton Harbor, 30% of your retailers have sold tobacco products to a minor. Grand Rapids, 30% of the retailers failed the compliance check and sold to a minor. Flint, 33%. Pontiac, 40%. Detroit, 6 out of 10 retailers will sell tobacco products to a minor. We're asking you to join with us to protect our kids and the health of our communities. Next slide, please. Jermaine?
Thank you for that. And so how do we know what Big Tobacco is capable of? Because they have a track record. So when we talk about Big Tobacco targeting our young people in this way, this very aggressive way, all one has to do is take a look at what the Big Tobacco industry did to target African Americans with menthol products. In 1950, only less than 10% of Black smokers smoked menthol. Today, that number is at 90%. And it was no coincidence. They really, truly weaved themselves into our culture. Some of you guys remember this Cool Jazz Festival. It's cool with a K, not cool with a C, because Cool with a K was a menthol brand of cigarettes. And they had all the best talents, and we all wanted to see that talent in the concerts. So they really truly ingrained themselves into our community, and they would have pretty ladies jumping out of limousines, handing out free cigarettes to everybody. And so today, I challenge you in a way that every Black smoker that you know is likely smoking menthol cigarettes today. And so as a result, 72,000 Black people each year are conducted with a tobacco-related disease. And another 45,000 Black and brown people die every year from a tobacco-related disease. And Minu mentioned this before, when you think about it, and we've done polling across the entire state, that 70% of smokers want to quit. When we're talking about Black smokers now with menthol, but menthol is highly addictive. What they did was essentially created a cigarette that Black folks would smoke. So earlier I said in 1950 it was less than 10%. Well, they had to figure out why that was. So they created a product that masked the taste of the tobacco and made it easier to draw on it. And it made it more palatable for us because we didn't want it. And so now if you had a menthol smoker and a non-menthol smoker standing next to each other smoking a cigarette, the menthol smoker would finish their cigarette quicker, because when you mask the taste of menthol, it allows you to take a lot longer draws on a cigarette than the non-menthol cigarette would allow you to do. And so as a result, you got the deaths and the challenges, health challenges that are related to tobacco. Next slide, please. And so when we're talking about Big Tobacco ingraining themselves into the Black community, there's also no coincidence that in most of the liquor stores you see menthol promoted in the stores. There are always a sale on menthol. When we talked about them giving out free cigarettes at events, well, when it made it to the shelves at their stores, it was always the cheapest cigarettes in our community. So it was the one we chose. And so even now, you'll see menthols promoted before you even get into the store, and even on the streets near a store, they're promoting the cigarettes, the menthol cigarettes in the Black communities. Next slide. Yeah, and this is just another example of the frequency of the promotions that are taking place. And, we took Wayne County, where we came to you today from, but we also took a look at Kent County, which is not far from here, and it all is consistent in terms of the promotions of the menthol flavored tobacco. Slide, please. So much so that, when you ask African American smokers, how did they begin smoking cigarettes? 66% of them will tell you they started smoking menthol cigarettes. Slide. And as a result, the state of Michigan is among the worst in the country in this regard. We have the worst policies to protect people from a lifetime of addiction of just about any state in the country. There are an assembly of 13 states that make up what they call Tobacco Nation. Slide, please. And they base it upon, how, some factors that demonstrate how freely and easily it is to get cigarettes, no matter how old you are, things like that. But just to kind of give you a snapshot of how big the problem is in Michigan, there's $300 million spent each year in Michigan to keep people addicted to tobacco. And earlier I said 45,000 Black people die every year. Well, when you talk about the general population in Michigan alone, more than 16,000 people die from tobacco-related diseases here in the state of Michigan alone. And when you think about the cost, the healthcare cost of people who are going to the hospitals and have influenza and all kinds of stuff going on with themselves as a result of tobacco use, that cost is costing us taxpayers over $5 billion a year to address those issues. And so you can just kind of see some of these issues that are prevalent in the state of Michigan. Next slide, please. Which again brings us to Tobacco Nation. And so how do they judge a state and include it in Tobacco Nation? They take a look at the life expectancy of its citizens. They look at the usage rate, usage of cigarettes, other menthol or tobacco products. They also look at the cost. We talked about how much cheaper menthol cigarettes are. Then it also looks at youth use. So how many young people in your state are actually using menthol? So they take all these factors in and determine who are the worst in the country. And as a result, Michigan is a part of Tobacco Nation. Next slide. So, excuse me. So there are other cities across this country, who have dealt with this problem, either full-on restrictions or partial restrictions. So you can see here in Detroit, so you can see here in Detroit with no restrictions, 65% of folks are smoking there, purchasing menthol cigarettes. Chicago, when they have a partial restriction, which means that they just took a look at different ways to curb the addiction. So they created some partial restrictions. They dropped their menthol usage by nearly half to down to 30%. And you can see what happens in other cities that are comparable to Detroit across the country. Next slide. And again, cigarette sales in Detroit versus similar cities. I think that graphic kind of speaks for itself. And so why are we here and talking about this? Well, we are in the process now working with our statewide partners to introduce a package of bills in the Michigan legislature to ban flavored tobacco. And there's a couple other things that we are trying to do to create better tobacco policies in the state of Michigan. And here are some of those reasons. Like, first and foremost, we want to build a sale of all flavored tobaccos, and that protects our kids from a lifetime of addiction, and even protects those adults who have been addicted to menthol cigarettes and just can't quit, but they want to quit. And then, there are different policies we're trying to enact, requiring a license for tobacco sale. The folks that are selling this, one of the deadliest products on the market, they don't even have to have a license to do it. So when you talk about, stores selling these vapes and cigarettes to our young people, you can't do anything about it. There is a fine, which is probably $100, a slap on the wrist when you're making way more than that in a day on a pack of cigarettes. And so we want to change that. Another thing that we want to do is repeal the possession, use, and purchase, which we call PUP, which are penalties on minors that are caught smoking cigarettes. We want to get rid of that. We don't want to penalize our young people for doing this, but we do want to address the retailers who sell the cigarettes to our young people. And then we want to increase the tax on tobacco products and dedicate the new revenue to prevention programs and treatment programs for those people who abuse tobacco and would like to quit, but they need help. And then lastly, local control. If we're unable to do an all-out flavored tobacco ban, well, our fallback position is going to be able to repeal preemption. And what preemption is a state law that prohibits local communities like your own from creating your own tobacco policies, ordinances and laws to protect your own folks. Because right now, state law says that no city can have any regulation on the books that are stricter than the state's regulations. So we want to definitely repeal that if we're unable to get an all-out ban here. Next slide. So, and we're bringing this to a close here. Really the call to action here is to ask this honorable body to consider joining other cities and counties and school boards across the state of Michigan and passing a non-binding resolution supporting this package of bills to protect our people from a lifetime of addiction with tobacco. And we ask you to do that as we expect to introduce these bills in this month of March. March. In this month of September, we expect to introduce that package of bills. So we'd love to have Ben Harbor on record as saying we need to do a better job in the state of Michigan in protecting our people from a lifetime of addiction and being targeted by big tobacco. Next slide. I think that is the last slide. There it is. So with that, I'll take any questions you may have. We will.
Any questions from the board members?
I have one interesting question. Has there ever been a study on some of these athletes who just fall out? Has it ever been studied if they use vape or any of those products?
Yeah, I'm not aware of a study on athletes, but if you guys remember, just before COVID broke out, when we didn't know what COVID was, there was an epidemic of young people ended up in the hospital with respiratory issues, and nobody could figure out what landed these young people in the hospital. We had a pretty dramatic case here in Michigan alone, but it was tied to vaping. And again, as Minu said, big tobacco, they're very creative. So their vape products look like erasers. They look like USB adapters. They look like whiteout. They look like ink pens. These are all things that big tobacco is creating for our young people to make sure that the parents never know what it is that they're doing. And in Detroit alone, and I apologize if I keep bringing up Detroit, but I see Ben Harbor really as a microcosm of Detroit. We're all urban cities across the state dealing with the same urban issues. Whereas in Detroit, Dawson Middle School is around the corner from the gas station. And we went in and talked to the principal at Dawson Elementary School, and they had bags and bags of confiscated vapes from the gas station around the corner that's selling to our young people. These are all products that these same kids are using around their parents at home who don't know that this is what they're doing. But the school professionals, teachers, and principals and what have you have gotten wise to it because they're seeing too many of them. So, again, big tobacco doesn't mind bamboozling a household. They're going to make sure that kids get this product that's going to get them addicted for a whole lifetime without you ever knowing it. And that's what we're here to try to prevent.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Ms. Phillips.
I was gonna ask something along those lines as to, different examples of, large reactions or, examples of how that has played out. I haven't ever smoked, right? I do remember growing up that, because we could go get them from parents from the store too when we were younger, right? And that menthol it was make sure it's this and that. And and I remember it was like easier to smoke.
Yeah.
And I have known or have learned about kids that I even know have had some of the highlighter appearance and stuff. And so it is huge. It really is. I didn't know about all those like sour candy flavors and stuff though, but.
There are over 4,000 flavors. 4,000. And, we mentioned earlier on that this is a social justice issue. And it is. In 2009, when President Obama signed the Tobacco Cosmetic Act, it gave the authority to FDA to regulate the sale, manufacturing, and distribution of tobacco products. Almost immediately, flavored cigarettes were banned, with one exception. Menthol, which is a flavor. It's the most widely used flavor by African American smokers. And I lost my father in November to COPD and emphysema. He was a Newport cigarette smoker. It's a social justice issue. Our lives matter just as much as everybody else's. We deserve the same protections under the law as everybody else. It took the African American Tobacco Control Leadership, American Medical Association, and American Anti-Smoking Health Association to sue the FDA for them to move forward on this. But it's taken 20 years, and we lose 45,000 African American lives each year to tobacco-related disease. It is the #1 killer of African Americans in this country, the #1. So we can't wait for the federal government to protect our kids. We can't do it. We have to do something about it now.
I just came to listen and learn, and what I've heard thus far is quite alarming. And as with the liquor licensing, we all know that that is regulated on the state level, where local governments, even under the Home Rule Act, don't have any teeth or powers to, other than our voice, to join on to coalitions and groups and movements even to try and make a difference. But I appreciate you are traveling from the southeast side of the state here to the southwest, because I think the message is more important, than anything at this particular point, as it relates to time and travel. So thank you for coming, and I look forward to learning more.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You mentioned about what was that law again about repealing to give local governments.
Yeah, preemption. Yeah, preemption is thank you. Yeah, so preemption is a part of state law that prohibits a local government from having any regulation stricter than state law as it relates to tobacco use. And we want to repeal that. That's our fallback position. We like to all-out ban flavored tobacco. That would satisfy everything else that I'm here to talk about. But we also recognize that, big tobacco is probably one of the top 2 most powerful lobbies in the country. And we're broke. You know, all we got is a lot of passion and heart, and a lot of people power. But I think that if we continue to do the jobs that we've been doing in other cities and counties and school boards have been falling in line, I think we can rally up the support to take on the deep pockets of the tobacco industry. However, if they are successful in keeping us from an all-out ban, I think we are still in a really good position to at least get to be able to repeal preemption, so it allows bodies like your own to pass the laws that are in the best interest of your constituents.
Mr. Chair, just lastly, I can't remember having candy cigarettes as a child, and I wanted me a pack.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot all about that, Mr. Man. They had the little sugar in it, and you can blow it out, and it looked like smoke.
I can remember,
Yeah.
you know, I had my little pack of my cigarettes, and you know, I think my father saw what I had from the local store. And he said, "Don't ever let me see you with that again." And that was the end of that.
Yeah.
But I was just looking, I think it was in a movie or something, an older movie, but they did away with it. Where they're no longer, that I know of, selling the candy cigarettes with the resemblance of a pack of Marlboro 100s because of the harmful effects of the aftermath.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can address this bigger issue in that same way.
Absolutely. Thank you for that.
I just have a question. Blunts. They come in different flavors. Is this the same pattern? You know what a blunt is?
Yes, sir. Not from personal experience, of course. So yes, they would be a part of it. So flavored tobacco, like if you smoke regular unflavored cigars, non-flavored cigars, you will continue to be able to do that. But flavored cigars, you will not, because we recognize that the flavors are there to entice young people. And you know, our effort has nothing to do with trying to go after blunts or anything related to the marijuana industry. It's all about the tobacco and its original use that we're going after. And what's interesting about blunts, you know, since you bring it up, is that like, if you smoke a cigar, you don't inhale that. It's too harmful for you to inhale. You take it in, you blow it right out. But what they're putting in the blunts, you have to inhale. So you're putting something around something you have to inhale with something that you shouldn't inhale. And so that's a reason enough for me to go after the blunt papers too. But really, it's not about the paper. So if you have the wraps, I think you'd be okay. But if you had flavored tobacco, a flavored cigar, then that's different. Then that's a part of this prohibition that we're going after.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
So our next step on this probably would be what? What is it?
Well, yeah, thank you for asking. You know, so our hope is that, you know, this honorable body be willing to pass a resolution supporting our package of legislation that will be introduced hopefully in the next 2 weeks. We have draft resolutions. We have resolutions that have passed in other places that we can provide to the clerk or to whomever needs to receive that, and you can massage it in any way you see fit. But the support is what's important to us, because we want to communicate that support from Benton Harbor to the Michigan legislature to let them know that you guys stand with us on this issue.
Committee clear on it?
Clear.
Okay. Consensus too, but you can get that to the clerk and get it to us and take a look and see what come out of it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I think that every time our sister city, Detroit, come, they come with a good one. And this is a good one, because it does a lot of things, and that preempt thing is just the best part of it. Because the state of Michigan, even before we became Democratic, whatever.
The trifecta.
Yeah, they were awful. So I would say that we need to kick this down the Canton Road one more time through legislation and pass it.
Now you looking at, to get this, when the,
Yeah.
package with this thing?
Yeah, obviously, at your earliest convenience, we don't want to rush your process. We don't know the process, but the sooner the better for us. We can have you copies of the resolutions first thing in the morning, or maybe even late tonight when we get back home. It's about 2.5 hours. We can get that right to you, but as soon as possible
Yeah,
for
next-
us.
Next legislative committee meeting is, the first Wednesday of, next month, October. So.
Yeah, we should still be in the middle of the fight by then, and that still, but also knowing that this body supports our effort, we can at least share that until the actual resolution is done, if that is the will of the board. And I'm not asking that question now. It's not my position to do that.
So what we'll do is, get the information to the clerk, and we give consensus to move this to the legislative committee.
Mr. Chair, and I also, I will be in Lansing on the 19th with the Black Mayors of Michigan at the Romney Building, and I look forward to sharing with them this information.
Was that an invitation, Mr. Mayor?
Well, it's not, we're being invited.
I got you.
So I can't speak beyond my power to do. However, I will be with them, and I can share with them 14 other Black mayors, because the issue is the same.
That's right.
Muskegon Heights, Highland Park, Inkster.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's right.
Thank you. That'd be amazing. And we'd be willing to meet them anywhere they needed us to come. Just like we did today, to talk through this issue and answer any questions they may have in their own individual jurisdictions.
And I'll follow up with Mr. Williams.
Sounds great. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
That brings us to the next resolution, authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with B&Z Company for the contract for 23 CDBG sidewalk project number 2. Matt.
This is going to take 9 and 10.
Okay.
And 11.
Okay. All right.
Good evening, commissioners and members of the Public Safety Committee. Jason Markwood with Admarsh, project manager with Admarsh. And really what I would like to do is go over really the resolutions authorizing city manager possibly to be approved this upcoming Monday for some upcoming infrastructure construction projects that the city just received bids on. We'll go over number 9 first, and that is the 2023 CDBG sidewalk package. So our office was working with Mr. Little on getting some of the CDBG funds that the city has received out for sidewalk improvement. So the city just did a project earlier this year that utilized CDBG funds, and this program is very, very similar, just different locations with sidewalk repairs. On August 24th, the city did receive only one bid, but it was from B&Z Company, local to Benton Harbor. B&Z Company did the previous sidewalk project in the spring. So we have some locations set up. It's in the packet here. We have some spot repairs on Territorial Road. We have both blocks on Thresher Avenue between Sealy and McCord. Moving south, we have some sidewalk repairs on Monroe near East Empire and Niles Avenue, Union Avenue between May Street and Weld Street, and then Hastings Avenue from Colfax Avenue and Salem Avenue. We have looked at these sidewalks in the past. One of the other things that we're trying to do is maybe not do a sidewalk that you guys have for the upcoming water infrastructure spending dollars, thinking that those sidewalks will be replaced as part of a larger road reconstruction project. B&Z bid $293,000, $355.25. Similar pricing to what they provided in the spring. So real good bids. We actually put the program out with the last package funding, and B&Z actually was lesser than those numbers. We put a program out for about $400,000, and their bids came in at $293,000. Furthermore, I believe Mr. Little is looking at possibly awarding, I think, another section of CDBG funds to, or not awarding, but possibly awarding a contract that's larger and doing some more sidewalk work, maybe in a couple more blocks. We have been working diligently on that. We just don't have it associated on this memo. We could definitely have it ready for this Monday. But that would award, a $393,000 contract to B&Z, and then we would go ahead and get started. B&Z actually is set up to start this work even next week, pretty much after award. The CDBG dollars that Mr. Little is covering has to be spent. That first initial 293 that's on this list, we want to have it spent by November 15th. So there's a deadline on spending those dollars. So there's kind of a time is of the essence on getting these dollars spent in those locations. But that's really all I have for the CDBG sidewalks. Possibly moving it forward on Monday to award that contract to B&Z.
Committee.
Can you repeat that date? You said November?
November 15th. Yep. And that's really dictated by the CDBG sidewalks or the CDBG funds. That additional money that we might have added to it, since the contractor already has a deadline for a contract that only had this location, they would only be concentrating on that first 293. The good thing about concrete sidewalks is that you can still build them after what we call the asphalt plants and the season's done. So there's some, we don't have an issue. We don't have I think actually we would almost probably be done with everything by November 15th, even if we add something to it. So.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, when is the construction season technically over?
So actually, according to MDOT usually uses that November 15th as their deadline, and a lot of it's due to asphalt plants closing. And that's associated with MDOT. There's definitely work that can happen after that season, but MDOT defines it as up to November 15th. And actually, I'll have some other discussions on the other items that we're looking at possibly working through that, because no hardscape or nor asphalt pavements are going to be happening between the winter months. But a lot of times, if the weather's cooperative, the contractors can still install pipe, install underground, and still work through things as long as things aren't frozen, subgrades are not frozen, or if it's too cold for them to be productive.
I just asked that, Mr. Chair, because as we close the construction season, I'm sure that staff are getting the most shovel-ready, if you will, projects so we can complete, because I know we had a very aggressive construction season this summer and start of spring. So hopefully we can shore up, close out those projects that we still have or that we're scheduled.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I have two things that I want to comment on this. And everybody know I'm going to talk about jobs. Jobs. This is a Section 3 project. Did you take in consideration, Amber March, that it was Section 3?
Yeah, so the CDBG requirements actually are kind of already built into that, into the actual requirements for the contractor. So B&Z has met all those requirements as per the CDBG requirements.
So you're telling me that they have hired Benton Harbor residents, because that's what Section 3 requires them to do, is to hire Benton Harbor residents. You telling me they haven't did that?
They have Benton Harbor residents that are going to be a part of this project that's already working for them.
Can I get a report on that, Mr. Little, to verify that? Because B and Z is right in my community, and I know them well. So can I get a verification that that is really happening? And my other question is, when the engineer gives an estimate, can you tell me why temporary traffic control got a big increase in B and Z's price unit? Can you explain that to me?
So I kind of brought this up before. So this is what I think happens in the industry. When a contractor puts his pricing together, he will price out items that are lump summed, sometimes higher, depending on how they want to track the job. So everything else is unit price based. So we had estimated a cost of $15,000 lump sum. So the contractor may front load his bid so that he puts more value into his total number of 293 on that lump sum item. Because if some work is removed from his contract, that lump sum for traffic control still applies to his bid. So it is totally just really contractor to contractor. MDOT sees that significantly in their bids, where they have temporary traffic control and other lump sum items that they do have to vet those out as they award contracts.
So you telling me temporary traffic control? Yeah, just let me know now. Temporary traffic control, $22,500. Temporary traffic control on a project that how many square feet was it for sidewalk? I understand the process that contractors do, but slimy is slimy. No matter what they do, and if it's acceptable, and MDOT is accepting that.
So what MDOT will do is they'll also break that item out into a few different items. We do not for this particular size project. Temporary traffic control will include any of their minor traffic control devices, any of their signage, any of their barrels, and also flag control. So all those items are required as part of our construction processes.
Gotcha,
So,
gotcha.
yep.
So, through the chair and Mr. Little, will we have some of our residents out there with signs saying slow and slow down and stop? Out of $22,500. Thank you, Mr. Little. Through the chair, I'll be waiting on that answer.
That in the city hire folks. Is there anybody that's gonna be, anybody local that's gonna be doing?
I'll check, but yes, I do believe their concrete foreman that will be on this job is a Benton Harbor resident, and I'll find out more information on their crew. I don't know all of them. Yep.
Well, we'll get that report to the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just encourage, one of the things that I've gotten, how do you say your last name?
Markwart.
Markwart.
Yep.
Mr. Markwart. That's a lot of money that has come through Benton Harbor and will come through within the next 4 years. Some have estimated 200 to 300 million by 2028, whether it be private or public funds. And private, we can't control. But I would hope that Abbott Marsh would hold contractors' feet to the fire as the management group, working with the city manager to make sure that at every opportunity is exhausted, where locals can be included in this construction boom of monies that's coming to Benton Harbor. And I trust that through your office, Mr. Manager, that you'll be putting your 4 eyes on those who work with us and for us to make sure that we get that kind of compliance, Mr. Little, with the Section 3.
Commissioner, actually,
Thank you, Jason. I see on Hastings, you have 2 lines drawn, so that's both sides of the sidewalk?
That's right. Yep.
Okay, they're gonna be digging up stumps and, I know somebody live on Hastings, and,
We do look at if the tree is going to be long-term effects to the sidewalk. Yep. And whether or not if sometimes you can get the sidewalk installed, but it impacts roots. And we look at that, and if it looks like we may be removing too many roots on something, we would ask the homeowner if we could remove that tree. Yep. So those instances do happen, especially on some of those sidewalks that are extremely heaved up. Yep.
I know somebody there in Florida stay on Hastings that walk up and down Hastings Street. She walk up and down Hastings. I walk with her sometimes, so she pointed that out to me. That'd be good news right here. It'd be a good night for everybody. Well, good night. Good news. Hastings Street. Thank you.
okay, so we got consensus to move that one?
Yes.
Okay. Number 9.
Yep. The next one is just recently, City Commission just adopted the recent FDCVT funding, maybe a couple months ago. We acted pretty fast on that since we know that money was associated with fire hydrants. Last year, the city awarded a contract to SWT Excavating to do 10 hydrants. They actually still have 2 to go in that process. We have allowed the contractors to have a little bit more flexibility on the fire hydrants installs, just for timing and keep the pricing down. So this resolution, we'd like to move this forward for Monday for consideration. The city did on the same day receive 2 bids, one from B&Z and one from Northern Construction Services. Northern Construction Services is actively working on the local streets project in town right now with the alleys, the catch basin improvements, the cemetery improvements. And they were actually low bid on the 3rd project I'll be talking about. But they did provide a bid for $185,000. And we would like to move forward with awarding that to Northern Construction. The time frame on the hydrant project generally would start this fall, as soon as we can kick it off with them. They usually will have to order materials, all the materials for the valve insertion, the inserter valves, the fire hydrants. Sometimes they have some long lead times on some of those items, but we have that set up so that it's required to be completed by next August. So we give them a full year. The other thing we thought about on that is, with this includes 7 hydrants. A lot of times they'll have a downtime for a day or 2 that they can kind of get coordinated a hydrant replacement, maybe on a rain date that they can't do something on a larger project. So we provided that flexibility here. 7 hydrants would be replaced. We do have a map associated with that. One on Buena Vista, John Street, Madison, McCord Street, Pipestone and Niles, Broadway and Weld, Main, Colfax, and Cross and Union. We have worked with public safety on these locations. In the past, we have been targeting trying to change hydrants only on 6-inch lines. These are a combination of 4-inch and 6-inch lines because we have taken care of a lot of the ones prior. And the other trick on these is to make sure that we're not replacing the hydrant that might have a future infrastructure project that you guys have adopted funding for. So these are standalone. So we're, you might wonder why isn't this one being replaced on May Street? Well, May Street is set up as part of your DWSRF and your water funding. So these are the locations that projects aren't occurring. So these are the candidate hydrants. They either have little or basically no flow that have been identified as part of those inspection reports that happened a year or so ago.
Good.
Is that part of jobs included in this project?
So I'm not exactly, the FDCVT requirements are the straight treasury funds. I do have an update for Northern on the next project. Northern is low bid on 2 of them, and they have used a local minority contractor for a large portion of the next project that I'm going to talk about.
I'm talking about this one.
Yeah.
So is this one gonna have either 25% for subcontractors, 25% of low income to moderate income residents? So, and if not, what penalty does Northern have to give us if they do not comply?
I will check. I do know that they were only able to award 3% for the last project that I'm going to talk about. So
I understand that, but every action has a result, something that happens. What happened to them if they just make all the money and don't supply us with what we need?
I'm not sure if they would bid on the project. I don't know. I don't know if they would.
It's Abermarch. This has been in place for years. Now, Section 3 just got recently, but the other ones have been in place for years. And Abermarch, you've been here for years. And every time a new job come up, I ask the same question. Where's the jobs?
It is written into our contract documents.
And can you tell me what happens if Northern decide not to do it?
Then you have a choice of not awarding the contract to them.
Okay, then it's your authority to tell us. Don't come and tell us that this was the lowest bid or this was the only bid and that they did not comply. You have to let us know that they are not complying with our resolutions or our considerations. That's your job to tell us. So I'll wait.
So, anybody want consensus know this one before?
Yes.
The last one, Division Columbus. This project was one of the first ones that was kind of penciled in for the additional Public Act 53 water infrastructure funding. The project includes full replacement of all utilities, storm sewer, sanitary sewer, and water main on Division Columbus from Pipestone to Columbus on Division Street, and then on Columbus from Division all the way to Empire. So the city did receive 3 bids on this project. The lowest bid was from Northern Construction Services. They actually have a window to really start this right away for the city, even as early as next week. So pending approval award, they would probably get going and starting on that work. In this, they did solicit for information to meet those requirements that you just mentioned, Commissioner. On the MIDA website, They did, on the resolution, they do have subcontract participation of 3% local minority on the furnished by Meeks Contracting. And we checked that with bid and for complete and accuracy. So that's, the bid came in at 2,982,000 compared to B&Z at 3.2 and then Ellie Barber at 3.8. We would like to get move this forward for Monday for consideration so that this work can happen. There's a lot of funds to look at from the city with them receiving with certain requirements of having a lot of that funding contracted under contract by the end of next year. So this would be a start of that process. Once some of these projects start coming together, I would like to come back for the city manager and city commission to update you all on the actual funding that we've kind of shown, where the 45 million at, where the lead service costs are at, and show where these prices are coming off of that list, and just keep you guys updated where that large budget project was. So that's just a little heads up there. But this is for Northern Construction. Like I said, they have an opportunity to start the project. This project would go all the way through next summer at the end of July. So.
Committee, anybody? Good question. Mr. Henry.
Does that 3%, does that fit our criteria? And if not, what do we have? What other recourse do we have? It's 3% of $2 million is what we asked for. No, it is not. So my question to staff is, if they cannot give us what we want with employment, what do they have to do? Do they just keep coming and using the public trough and not giving us what we need? That's a question to you, city manager, and Mr. Little, because you're the ones that have to make sure that our resolutions, our will, the people's will is done. So money don't excite us that way much unless we're getting some of it. It doesn't, I mean, we can look at all the improvements fine and dandy, but where's the human part of it? We, the body, has tried to put those things in place, but if it doesn't happen and nothing happens from it, yes, thank you. Thank you. I'm just waiting on somebody to answer me. Thank you.
The chair recognizes Mr. Hood.
Legally, the requirement is that they make every possible effort to try and achieve the goals that we have set. But realistically, let's recognize that first off, when you say 3% of $2 million, that's not how it gets computed. A significant portion of these kinds of jobs winds up in materials. And then a portion goes into the salaries. And then it becomes a number based on number of people working. That's how it gets determined. Now, the other thing that we got to be realistic about is people available to do this work. We know where we are, and we're not kidding ourselves. We know exactly what our workforce is. And when you start talking about the amount of work that we're looking at in these contracts, let's just say up front, we're going to be taxing that number. But we'll work to try to see that every effort is made to hire as many of our people as we possibly can get hired.
Not only that, Mr. Little, we might add, we're not going to, we've been doing it all along. We've been in the, Oh, no. You talking now, I'm trying to tell you. We've been doing this a long time, and we've been listening to this a long time since it started. And we have scars on our backs that show the efforts we made to get that number.
Okay, I grant it. But it's not sufficient. It does not make it by my book. So whatever you're doing, you need to do more because our resolution says one thing. So whatever you're doing, you gotta do more because I ain't seeing it. It's just not right for our people not to get, and I don't care what you say, you tell me we don't have no skilled people, because that's not true. We had a job bank and it was full of people.
The issue isn't skilled people, it's people, period.
People that want to work.
Oh, no, come on.
All right.
So,
I'm
this,
going for it.
this brings
Them
about
folks.
a really good point in regards to, I know one of the things I'm helping to canvas about for Varian Forward is the Biden administration has allowed supportive funds to like what Access for All. It's one of the, I've went to some of the addresses on Hastings and different locations to give it out. But the point is that at some point, we actually have to take part in the trade. So it's contractors, electricians, it's cement masons, it's all those things. And so we have to push those trades forward so that we can end up having more qualified residents, because what Little and our city manager is saying is in regards to what all people do we have, like besides the meats, like for example, construction, who else do we have? So I do understand you can't make somebody come out of air prepared, right? And then some of the people we have, we know that aren't good. That's one of the reasons why I'm still in transition. We've talked about that, right? Who have you referred necessarily to me, and how did that work out? But so I understand that it's a process and it's a resolution and a number that we would want, but if we don't have it. But I appreciate your energy though, but I mean, we have to be honest too in the interim. So I can give you guys, everybody some flyers. I have tons in the car, so it starts at 18. It's felon friendly, and they get paid for 9 weeks of training, right? And then it's the apprenticeship process that you can end up being a journeyman after all of that. But we have to push our youth into such things, maybe get them out of factories and then plan for this long term, but we can't make it happen overnight.
No. Well, I'm a contract. I'm a construction person, and I'm retired, so I know who's here, and I know that we have the opportunity. We just gotta open it up. You can say them people, them, they, but that's not the way I refer to it. I know that we are qualified, and we have to go out and make a special effort to get these traumatized people in. I know a guy right over there, he's got the skills to do it. He's living there and miserable. So I don't want to hear you say that there's no skills, because you have to make a special effort. Otherwise, you continue to do what's been going on for 500 years.
We keep talking about skills, and I keep preaching to you that your numbers are a fact. Population 9,100, 36% of which are 19 and under, 20% that are elderly. The remaining in between would typically be your possible workforce, and 18% of the people are on one form or another of disability. We went through that with the lead line replacement program, where we went out and we realized that we couldn't get them here. We even went out into the township to come up with, I believe, something like 194 people. And many of these people went to work, and many of them after just a few weeks quit. And we found that the reasoning for it, because we started hearing, We heard from you and from others that, oh, they mistreated the people and so forth. No, we went and did some digging and found out that a number of these people were on disability, and they acted in their own best interest. They were not gonna get kicked off disability, off of SNAP and everything else to work a job that they knew was gonna be temporary anyway, that they would get finished within a reasonable time period. They went home.
Mr. Chair, if you could ask the Assistant City Manager to recite those statistics just one more time.
No, give it to us.
I'll
Don't
be
cite
glad-
it, give
I'll be
it to
glad to
us.
give it to
I
you.
said recite it.
Point of order.
You do it.
Can you,
Mr. Chair.
yeah, recite them again and then.
Certainly.
you know,
Population 9,100, 36%, 19 and under, approximately 20% senior citizens out of the workforce, and about 18% on one form or another of disability. I keep telling you, you do not have the workforce.
Mr. Chair, if I can just add, in speaking with Mayor Neely of Flint, he said, Mayor, who were the contractors that you all used to get to 99.1% or 99.9% of the lead service lines? He said, because we are at 93%. And we're trying to finish because what was done prior to him, where they had people who were doing the work unqualified, messing up people's homes, and just disasters as a result of awarding contracts to contractors that just didn't have the capacity one way or the other. So to the credit of Abbott Marsh and the staff, I know we're trying to make benchmarks, and certainly we want to make every quota, so to speak. But at the end of the day, we have to, and not just get the work done, but it has to be superlative because the people deserve.
And if I could offer just one last comment, that is the very reason why I'm saying housing has got to be the most critical need this city has. You've got to get a place for people to live so you can have working people to fill these jobs. Right now, if a person gets a job and get enough money, they're gonna move out of township somewhere and buy a house that meets their needs, because there's nothing in Benton Harbor.
Mr. Manager, you can hold it up.
This is the document that everyone has been given. Tells the story about the figures. The impediment to housing choice. It's in here.
You see,
Consensus to move this item forward.
Yeah, please, Mr.
Yes.
Chair. I
Yes.
support.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
All I wanted them to do is fix that hole in front of my house.
All right, another
And that fix it.
item on the agenda, number 12, approve temporary use of ARPA funds to support our street, and other federal state funded projects. Mr. Lewis.
Yes, sir. I believe last commission meeting, I had a resolution regarding HUD CDBG and the need to use ARPA funds to be able to fund the activity and then draw the money down and put it back. I mentioned at that meeting, because I just overlooked it, that we need to do the same thing for Ox Creek and for the other federal funding projects that we're getting. We're getting so many and such large amounts, there's no way the city's general fund can ever keep that activity going. You've got 3 million in the One Hood grant for Ox Creek that's going to be kicking off very shortly. You got $1 million in the Spark grant. You've got about another 5 million from NOAA and other sources on Ox Creek. And many of these require that we spend the money first and then get reimbursed. Fortunately, the third ones, you spend it, and as quickly as you prepare your vouchers, you can draw the money down like the next day directly from the treasurer. So it's not like you're gonna be putting money out for a long time, but it's the only way you're gonna be able to handle these projects and keep them moving. As I also mentioned last time, even about just CDBG, we're gonna be kicking this up to where you'll be spending between $80,000 to $100,000 a month.
And Alex, we might as well talk about the, what is it, 24,000?
Yes, we do need to. We, in this last round of the properties that were going on tax sale, we went through these and selected properties that the city wants to purchase. Included among those, and we've been watching for them the longest, the two of them that are part of the Armory property. We need those. If we don't acquire them, we may not get a chance to get them again, or if we do, it'll be in market price and have to pay a higher price from somebody to get it. The other thing about it is that these properties are also part of parcels that we're trying to use to resolve a mitigation problem that we've got that came from when the Harbor Shores project was done, and properties were offered in downtown here in mitigation form, and one of them, the dialysis center was put on it. That virtually has shut us off from access to any of the DNR money to do many of the recreational and other things that we want to do. We're trying to resolve that. And those properties, we get them, we can dedicate them and resolve that problem. So it's crucial to us that we get that. Our cash flow right now on general fund cannot handle the 24,000, and we've got to pay it by Friday, or the county put them back out on the tax sale coming up in September. We've asked them if there's anything else to do, and they're not getting any favorable answers, so we're gonna have to do something to go ahead and buy those properties.
And we need commission approval, please.
Right. And because they're saying Friday the 15th, which is before the commission meeting coming up, we may very well need to just try and poll commissioners and be sure. These other properties are critical to our plan for trying to generate and produce affordable housing in the community. And I talked to you about the planning that we're doing to try to do that. That plan is moving forward and moving rather rapidly. So we need them. I know some people have we don't need more properties, we got to pay to maintain. We need these properties as part of this overall program. We're trying to get some things resolved and some solutions for this town.
Anybody else? Commissioner Action.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I know we had like 3 million in the ARPA funds.
Yes.
Now, this 24 won't be reimbursed, right?
It won't be reimbursed.
Now, will we still have enough to front for the Ox Creek project, the state project, and stuff like that?
Absolutely.
So it's good, but it's essential that we get this property, though.
It is critical.
24,000.
24,000, I believe, 617 or something like that.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Commissioner Andrews.
Is that two lots there, right there by, Bobo Brazil's community center?
Yes.
On the
sure. Yes.
east side, there's two lots.
Two
Or the
lots
three.
side by side on top of the hill to the right when you're looking that way. Yeah, and that will then give us everything in that Bobo Brazil circle except the house on this corner with somebody lives in.
They'll give you everything,
There's only one house on it.
It's only one house,
One
it's
house
been
on
there
the
forever.
corner.
Right.
And most of the rest is parking lot, except if you know up on the hill there, you've got land that goes all the way from,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You get everything but the house.
24,000 something, huh?
Yes.
How many lots? How many properties is it?
I believe it's 22, somewhere right around.
22 properties for 24,000,
Mm-mm.
25,000. Yeah.
There's about 22, I believe, I don't know the exact, I can't recall the exact number, but I believe it's about that many.
And those two properties that you.
Those two are part of it.
included in that.
Yes. they're
Oh,
included in
okay.
it.
Yeah.
Good.
Don't want to mislead you. Yeah, that's their part of it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we're going that, we would cover 2 blocks, except for that one house. Because Morton, the cities, and then the Harbor. The only thing we wouldn't have is that gray house.
All right.
Across the street from that is the Foundry.
Okay.
Consensus on it.
Yes.
Yes.
Through the chair, can we get well, I know when it comes up to our AP, it's gonna give us a list of the properties that,
Absolutely.
but can we get that before?
You know, you can send that up.
I would like to see that before I
I'll
vote
send
on
it
it.
out to you tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you.
You can take checks from commissioners too.
Okay.
I would like to.
Last item on the agenda is Park and Recreation update. Go ahead, Coach.
I'll go last. I just wanted to ask for the umpteenth time that this is the end of the summer season already, and I've been asking for 2 years to get an exit report on our parks and what's happening, who we're renting to, how much they pay, when they pay. I have not gotten that. I'm going to ask every time. It seems like my attorney says I should sue the city because they are not giving me information that I need. So
Point of order.
I'm asking the city, to the chair, the city manager, again this month, if we can have that exit report for all our parks, recs, is what went on 2023. Because I didn't get a complete comprehensive report in 2022. But I'm asking for that
23.
for 23.
Can you have staff provide that?
We'll provide it again, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mitchell, if you open your mouth and say you gave me that report for 23, I was going to gag.
It said 23.
I know you shouldn't, because that is not true. You didn't
All right,
give me anything for 23.
Commissioner, you got some updates on?
Yeah, here's my favorite part. Everybody like leaving. Park updates. Union, is there any word on Union? I mean, not Union, I'm sorry. King Clark Park repairs, any?
I met with the insurance adjuster on Monday, and he'll be getting back with his assessment.
Thank you. Also the pavilion roof.
The roof is already fixed.
Cool. Thank you. So park updates, still the same.
All right.
I'll give you that presentation when y'all feel like it, but other than that, park update. But I would like to say this though. I would like to first thank you all, the whole staff, commissioners, mayor, for coming to the employees appreciation. That was me and Rona's second time putting it together. And just so y'all know, it cost the city absolutely nothing. And we all did it on that last day. The only one that committed right off the bat, actually she committed last year that she would do it every year, and that was Block. So they paid for the lunch. Then we had to scramble for everybody else. So, but we did get, Abbott March, paid for the dinner at Diallo's. F&V paid for the liquor, guys. And then we also had some donations. Other than that, it was good. Also, I would like to thank Abbott March. There was a resident on Broadway, I can't remember the number, who they had went down there to do her water, and they left a hole in her basement, and water was still coming. It was leaking. I mean, it was like gushing. And I went down to Abbott Marsh, and y'all would be surprised. I was real professional, and they took care of it. So thank Abbott Marsh. Public safety, I want to thank public safety for the things they do. That's a stressful job. I'm a veteran, and that's a stressful job. So I want to appreciate them face to face, and all of you guys. Thank you all. That's the update. All right. Sounds good to me. Attorney Seneca, if I get on your nerve, just walk away.
You don't at all.
Okay.
I enjoy
Go
your
ahead,
discussion.
I would like to say, and I know this isn't parks, but public safety and these posts about shutting down these parties. I love it. We're getting on the map. You know how you have seen other people's police departments have said it and then they kind of engage with them or whatever, but I know a lot of the older people are happy. I mean, like, I'm happy, and I appreciate again the coordination with the stores and stuff and them being closed. I don't know if Mayor was watching this online, but how they have agreed to be closed from 1:30 to 4:30 on Fridays and Saturdays is huge. And then that camera access of seeing out in the parking lot, I'm just excited about that because those small things, and I know Commissioner Huber was saying something or another, but she wasn't paying attention to the hours because they ought to be home at 1:30 to 4:30. And so I don't care what they need or what they wanted to do with those times. We care that we're trying to sleep and don't want to hear twerking contests and things of that nature. So I'm excited about such, collaborations in the community, And thank you.
With that, this meeting is closed.
Well, Mama said, if you ain't did it by 12, you don't need to do it.
Whoever bought the